Thank you, President Sir, for this honor and opportunity. Can I have the audio on, please? Thank you. I don't need it now. It's okay. I'm done. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. The Bhattacharjee rings has notches and flanges and goes through a 0.9 incision. If I have seen a little further, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants. Words by Sir Isaac Newton. And as I stand tall before you today, me and my achievements are actually dwarfed because I stand on the shoulders of these two giants. Thank you, Dr. Chang and Dr. Malugan, for lending your broad shoulders to an entire generation of cataract surgeons. We're really indebted to you. I must acknowledge the contribution of other giants who really paved the way for my work. 1979, Alan Schenk was the first to show. I'll try to make it as brief as possible. Now, this was 1979, handheld pupil expander. Glass. You'll be surprised to know that the first flexible pupil expansion ring came way back in 1981 by Robert Glass. A bit crude, but definitely a great idea. And you'll be still more surprised that the first pupil iris retractor, or hooks, were published by vitreoretinal surgeons and not cataract surgeons way back in 1989. These were metal iris retractors and used from the pars plana. This is from the patent document that shows the pars plana approach. You won't be surprised because these were retinal surgeons. They were the ones who published their work on these retinal tacks. The first self-retaining flexible iris retractor was also published by Dijuan and Higginbotham way back in 1991, and they are retinal surgeons. These are flexible iris retractors, the ones similar to the ones we use, and actually cataract surgeons, dedicated cataract surgeons, came with their devices much later. Richard Mackhull in 1992 and Nikamin in 93. Other milestones. 1991 to 2003 saw a series of pupil expansion rings by Grether, Morsher, Milverton, and Lee, but none of them really stood the test of time. Now, 2005, small pupil itself was redefined. Chang and Campbell. We all saw this every day in our surgery, but they meaningfully interpreted it and gave us some value to it and made our life a lot easier. And of course, 2007, Boris Malugan changed the way we dealt with small pupils. Now, this was the birth of an idea, a totally brilliant idea, a strand of polypropylene with scrolls being used to expand the pupil, a disruptive innovation according to me. And at that point itself, it got me thinking, because I was thinking for some time, and this was really the major breakthrough. And if you see, after Boris Malugan's invention, all that has come has been on a strand. That makes it so much slimmer, and we really owe a lot to Boris for his great work. Now, I made my job difficult by setting my target at a 20-gauge incision. I thought I could make it simpler, but I just couldn't put my finger to how I would do that. It took me a long time, 2 full years, to think what could probably be modified. I'll be talking about that journey in the next lecture in Hall K immediately after this. Now, what I realized was the Malugan rings, the scrolls were brilliant, but yet the biggest hurdle, if I were to put it through a smaller incision, that is what snags the incision, because it's a biplanar device, makes it a biplanar device because of the scrolls. The next gen, I wanted audio. Anyway, so it took me some time to realize that I had to have the best features of the Malugan ring and the iris hooks I had to have the best features of the iris hooks and the Malugan ring to device to my next device. So I had notches and flanges with alternate flanges going behind the iris. It works very much like a paper clip. The clip remains in the same plane, but the paper bends. That's the essential principle over here. So we had the Bhattacharjee rings, slim 0.1 millimeter profile, extremely flexible with a slim joint available as a square and a hexagon which is equally thin and flexible. Insertion through a 20 gauge incision, single 20 gauge incision. The leading flange is tucked, and then the second flange, and then the third flange. We could use a Kuglin hook or for specially designed forceps. We could use a 23 gauge forceps also to do it unimanually or bimanually with an iris hook, again, which I have modified the Bond iris hook. This is bimanual MICS in progress. This is a 2.2 coaxial phaco with a square device. And that's the pupil size we measured and the rexus size. This is a rather hard cataract and a hexagonal device being used. And that's the rexus size. Removal is rather easy. Hold a flange, disengage the two notches on either side, and just drag the device out. It just walks out because the trailing notches just disengage spontaneously. And that we have around pupil. Now, this is a 2.2 incision. It's rather easy because the entire device moves into the first pass itself. This is from a live surgery which I did in Jaipur just about a month back. And this is the entire device in the first pass. You could actually hold it over there itself and tuck that leading flange under the pupillary margin. And there goes the second flange under the pupillary margin. A change of hands, but you need the same instrument. We're trying to work on a forceps which should work easier through the same incision. That's it. And removal, again, is through the side port. I always prefer the side port because it gives you a lot more control, makes the device slimmer as it comes out. I'll leave this. This is, other than standard phaco, we could use it in femto, where it will be very relevant because you have a smaller incision and allows you to make the femto incisions on the cornea with the same device. Bimanual coaxial MICS, shallow anterior chambers, and small people vitreous surgery, a 2.2 or larger incision is actually kind of self-defeating. I talked about this. Now, when you come to shallow chambers, it's the strand thickness and the vertical profile at the corners. If you realize it's the mid-peripheral chamber is almost half that of the central chamber, and that's where it's a key issue. A thinner device would probably be much safer in a shallow chamber. These are the results with a square device, hexagonal device. This was very rewarding. This was shallow anterior chamber. The other way I was blind due to angle closure glaucoma. And this I had a peripheral iridectomy. This is a 1.7 millimeter anterior chamber, and I used the hexagonal device, and I had a 20/30 vision on day 7. I'll, wrap up this over here. Thank you very much for your kind attention.